The world holding its breath tonight as Russia attacks Ukraine. From here at home to the war zone overseas, we have complete coverage of this breaking news story.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Alan Carter.
And I'm Tracy Tong. We start tonight more than 7,500 kilometers from Toronto. This is a live look at Ukraine's capital, Kyiv.
It is a city under the threat of attack. Overnight, Russian troops invaded the Eastern European country. Thousands are trying to flee. The number of those killed stands at over 50. Scores of civilians have been injured. Western leaders, including our Prime Minister, are condemning the invasion.
And we are going to hear from the Prime Minister and U.S. President in a few moments. Now, Canada has the third largest Ukrainian population in the world, only behind Ukraine itself and Russia. And here at home, Ukrainian Canadians are filled with dread and anxiety, worried about their loved ones back in their homeland. Our Catherine McDonald joins us live from Nathan Phillips Square, where a rally of support is underway at this hour. Catherine, how is that community holding up?
Well, this has been a very difficult day for this community. As you said, Canada is home to more than 1.3 million people of Ukrainian descent, and many of those people call the GTA home. Now look over my shoulder, as you can see, a massive rally here. Hundreds have gathered to protest against Vladimir Putin. The rally is actually organized by those in the Russian community who are against their government's actions and are here to show their support for the people of Ukraine. You can see signs that say, "God bless Ukraine," "Stop Russian aggression," "Stand with Ukraine." And people are wearing Ukrainian flags, and some are even wearing Russian flags. Now, I spent the day speaking to Ukrainian Canadians who are worried sick about their loved ones. Many tell me they were up all night watching the news and trying to connect with family back home. One woman who came to Canada as a refugee from the Ukraine in 2016 says she got a text from her sister around 3:45 this morning. They sent her terrifying videos showing planes overhead and sirens. She says her sister and her family won't leave, and she's praying for a ceasefire, but fearful for what's next.
It was 3:45. They sent me message that they're under attack. They sent me message that the war starts above their home.
Right above their home. And then they sent you this video.
Yes.
And when you saw that, what did you say to them?
I was shocked. Of course, I didn't believe it, and I don't understand what's going on.
I don't think that anyone in their heart of hearts believed that Putin would have the audacity to do what he did. And that calls for a strong reaction from the international community.
So how can you help? The Ukrainian Canadian Congress is planning another rally tomorrow at the Ukrainian consulate on the lakeshore, and they're having a mega walk on Sunday. And I heard this organization say that they're planning to be back here on Monday. There's also an online website for humanitarian aid if you want to donate at www.cufoundation.ca. Their goal is to raise $2.5 million to send back to Ukraine for all these people who are, many of them, homeless and now trying to find shelter. And this crowd is passionate, but there is a sense of solidarity here, which is really nice to see on such a difficult day for so many Torontonians and Canadians. Back to you.
Thank you, Catherine. And leaders around the world are speaking out tonight against Russia. The Prime Minister talking with the President of Ukraine to express solidarity with the people of that country. Canada is imposing severe sanctions against Russia. And for those under siege tonight in Ukraine, Trudeau said this.
In these dark hours, Canada's message to the people of Ukraine is this: you are not alone. We are standing with you. To Canadians and permanent residents in Ukraine, your safety and security are now our top priority. We also want to make sure that you can get to safety.
President Joe Biden is sending U.S. troops to Europe tonight to defend NATO allies and is issuing a new round of sanctions he believes will cripple Russia. So let's bring in our Reggie Cecchini, who is in Washington for us. Reggie, right now it seems the plan is to fight Putin with sanctions and not boots on the ground in Ukraine. How effective will these sanctions be?
Well, Tracy, good evening. Look, there is going to be no boots on the ground from the Biden administration and from America in Ukraine. The White House has been working to reassure Americans of this for weeks, mainly because Ukraine is not a member of the NATO alliance. Now, the U.S. is providing logistical and financial support to be able to prop up both the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian military, but that's where it stops. There is no broad appetite here amongst the broader American public for any kind of involvement with the United States in a conflict between two other countries. Now, as you said, there are economic sanctions that are being levied on Russia, on the Kremlin, and on people surrounding Vladimir Putin in order to kind of stymie and take away that ability to use their finances and provide a bit of economic pressure here. But as we heard from President Biden earlier today, these are not going to be an immediate action, and they may simply not stop President Putin from moving any further.
I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia. This is going to impose severe cost on the Russian economy, both immediately and over time. We have purposely designed these sanctions to maximize the long-term impact on Russia.
All right, so Reggie, we know the U.S. is committing to bolster the defense position across Eastern Europe. Where will forces be deployed, and what's the possibility of Putin going beyond Ukraine?
Well, look, so as we said, forces are not going to be deployed in Ukraine, but they will be bolstering the NATO kind of line that runs up towards the Russian border and surrounding Ukraine. This is part of an obligation that the United States has, along with other NATO allies, in order to have a defense on the ready. And as we heard, President Biden will be moving more and redeploying some of the troops that are already situated and stationed throughout parts of Europe. What happens if President Putin opts to move outside of Ukraine? That would become a red line for NATO. It would trigger Article 5, and it would create a much more global conflict outside of just these two nations. This is something that Western leaders have been fearful of. This is something that Russian President Vladimir Putin has been echoing that he may want to carry out. He is simply not somebody who wants to see NATO encroaching any further on Russian territory. He does not want to see Ukraine becoming a part of NATO or even joining the European Union. And this is really setting up a clash right now between the Kremlin and between the West. This is going to be something that's talked about tomorrow during a virtual summit of the G7 leaders following a phone call with President Biden earlier today. There will also be a meeting of the European Union tomorrow in Brussels. The West really trying to put up a front here to push back on what has been a nonstop barrage across Ukraine over the last 18 to 19 hours.
Yeah, we'll certainly follow very closely how world leaders continue to respond to this. Thanks so much for that, Reggie.
Thanks.
At Queen's Park, a rare show of solidarity as all parties denounce the Russian invasion. Matthew Bingley is live at Queen's Park with more. Matt.
Alan, it was quite the show of support this morning ahead of Queen's question period, when one by one, each of the party leaders stood and put aside their partisan differences to show solidarity for Ukraine. Now, beginning with Premier Doug Ford, there were tributes about the unique bond held between both countries and a nod to how Ukrainian Canadians have helped shape this country, but also strong condemnations of the Russian Federation attack. One of the biggest responses coming from the Green Party's Mike Schreiner as he delivered a passionate speech about this building's dedication to upholding democracy. Have a listen.
Canada shall never waver in standing against tyranny. Canada shall never waver in the support of Ukraine. As Putin's aggression lights up the skies of Kiev, they will see the strength of the Ukrainian people emerge from the darkness. We must ensure that the Ukrainian flag flies high above the skyline. The blue and yellow must be the last colors the invaders see.
In this House, in this province, we stand united for democracy. Democracy must always trump authoritarianism.
Now, Matt, there are calls for Canada and even Ontario to do its part, but what could that possibly include?
Well, the opposition leader was pressuring the Ford government to really show support to Prime Minister Trudeau and really show Ontario is committed to helping out with this. Everything from refugees, welcoming them, as well as helping out with family reunification efforts. Now, earlier, the Labour Minister, Monty McNaughton, said that he had a conversation with the Federal Minister of Immigration and did, in fact, show all of that support, including perhaps an expedited process to move Ukrainians here to the province. Alan.
Thank you, Matt.
And as news breaks on the Ukraine crisis, we've got you covered at globalnews.ca and on our streaming service on the Global TV app and Amazon Prime Video.
Okay, let's check in with our meteorologist, Anthony Farnell. Now.
Anthony, we are tracking some snow for the morning commute.
That's right. And right around 7, 8 a.m. is when we're expecting most of the snowfall. Not good news if you're trying to take your kids to school, trying to get to work yourself. Just give yourself some extra time. I know it's late February. We're all fed up with the snow, but we're also used to driving in it. So give yourself some time tomorrow. Right now and throughout the day today, we've had an abundance of sunshine. It didn't do too much to the temperature, 6 degrees below freezing. That was the best we could do. That's our current temperature. And those winds just now starting to tick up from the east-northeast, and there's going to be some enhancement. Notice how Lake Ontario, even the inner harbor, free of ice at this hour. So with all that open water and the cold temperatures, we're going to get some lake effect snow at the onset around 10 p.m., somewhere around Hamilton, Burlington, and then eventually oscillating up towards the downtown core. But there is just a widespread 5 to 10 centimeter snowfall, and this weather advisory in pink. There's a bit more snow expected around Kingston to Brockville, Cornwall, and even into southwestern Quebec. This is where a snowfall warning is currently in place. So when does it all start? As I mentioned, the first band around Hamilton, 10 p.m. For Toronto, it's around 1 or 2 in the morning, but it's going to wrap up rather quickly as well. So this is quite a bit of snow. It's going to definitely mess with the roads because it's so cold and it's breezy. It'll be blowing around. But this system is a fast mover, so it's in and out of here before noon. So your trip home will be a lot easier on Friday afternoon. It's still quite cold up towards the Nickel Belt, Sudbury, North Bay, -14, -13, -10 in Ottawa. And here's how it looks. Our futurecast through the night tonight. We see that initial band. There it is. This is at 11 p.m., and then that moves into the city of Toronto. Here's a look at what we're expecting as we move through the night and into the day tomorrow. 7 to 12 centimeters, locally a little bit more, but it wraps up around 10 a.m. We'll talk about the more important weekend forecast. I think we can all use a weekend. That's coming up in just a bit. Tracy?
You can say that again. Thanks, Anthony.
A man is in serious condition following an early morning stabbing in Leslieville. Toronto police say they were called to this home on Gerrard Street East and Highfield Road around 5:30. A man in his 50s reportedly stabbed. He was rushed to a trauma center in serious condition. So far, no arrests.
Police have identified the young woman who was killed in a hit and run in Mississauga over the weekend. 24-year-old Kavita Chaudhry of Brampton was walking along Derry Road and was crossing at Catterick near Airport Road on Sunday when she was struck. She later died in hospital. The suspect car, a dark-colored vehicle, fled the scene. Police say they have since found the vehicle and identified the driver. They are encouraging the driver to seek legal counsel and turn themselves in.
A driver in life-threatening condition after a collision between 2 trucks on Highway 401 in North York. This happened on the eastbound express lanes of the 401 before Leslie. Around 10 o'clock this morning, the condition of the other driver unknown. The cause of the collision also unknown.
Let's get to Ontario's latest COVID-19 numbers now. Just under 1,100 patients required care in a hospital, down by 40 in the past day. The ICU number was unchanged at 302. 41 more fatalities are being blamed on the virus as the pandemic death toll now tops 12,347.
The first Canadian-developed COVID-19 vaccine has now been approved for use by Health Canada. Quebec-based Medicago created the plant-based vaccine that offers more than 70% protection against variants, including Delta, in a large-scale study. Now, that was before Omicron began to circulate. The shot will be called Covifense, which is a play on defense against COVID.
This is the first authorized COVID-19 vaccine developed by a Canadian company. After an in-depth review of the evidence, we've determined that this vaccine meets the department's stringent safety, efficacy, and quality requirements.
No serious adverse reactions were reported during the trials, which was in more than 12,000 participants. It is the sixth shot against COVID-19 approved for use in this country. Straight ahead, Ukraine under attack. People around the world condemning Russia's military action, including protesters here at home. More on that part of the story after the break.
I'm Sean O'Shea, live at Martin Grove and Bloor. Pothole season is here, earlier than usual, and some mechanics say the damage is worse than ever. That story's ahead.